Welcome to Cinema Chop Shop. Watch, chop, retrofit.
Can I go ahead and get my plugs out of the way?
Sure.
Right here off the top, I want to plug the band Creed. People who eat Spam salad instead of ham salad. And then also those dudes who leave their shopping cart in the parking lot.
The very best of humanity.
This is not a degenerates podcast. This is Cinema Chop Shop.
Welcome to Cinema Chop Shop, everybody. It's episode 300.
300 episodes. That's like almost as much as they paid that new pitcher for the Dodgers.
Almost. Travis, you started this podcast on a lark.
Yeah, it was a dare.
You and Andrew
Somebody dared me to do it.
kind of did it, and your first recording was on a
Real bad.
a bachelor's party weekend.
No. That wasn't the first recording.
One? Okay.
The very first one was in Andrew's apartment.
Okay.
And it was like we were cavemen crowding around a single microphone, wishing it was fire.
Well, we've come a long way, baby. I'm glad to have been a part of the journey with you. And our guest tonight, Todd, who is Johnny Come Lately in the big scheme of things, but a very welcome guest.
Thank you.
You were a little late.
What we'll be doing for today that is a throwback is actually the first time I will be doing it.
So this is a
Recasting?
Correct.
new territory for you.
The original name of the podcast was The Recast.
Correct.
And then we found out there was some other podcast called that.
Yeah.
It was about fishing.
Yeah. Yeah, totally.
Like actual fish,
Like
not
talking about
not
lures and shit.
personal data.
I like Cinema Chop Shop better.
It's better.
Anyway, yeah. So that
Joey was
worked
supposed
out.
to be here, but he had a family medical thing that kind of kept him out of pocket all day. So
Thoughts and prayers.
So anyway, hope you get through that, JoJo. We might have some special guests in the post-edit of this.
Oh, that's cool. All right, some like sound clips from people.
Yeah.
I dig it.
So without further ado, I mean, besides being the milestone 300th episode,
It's kind of fucking crazy.
but we're just going to charge forward and do our thing.
It's 300 episodes of this silly, silly show. I once texted you, Cinema Chop Shop is and always will be the diary of a madman. And I just want to say, 300 episodes, Morty. 1,000 years, forever and ever.
But we're going to trudge on because we got work to do tonight. And the first thing we're going to talk about,
Is?
fittingly enough, is the movie 300.
Oh, you mean the homoerotic epic from the year
2007.
2007.
Directed by Zack Snyder.
Yes.
He was still wet behind the ears. But he still had his signature muddy color style that he's become famous for.
Now, a lot of people liked the color scheme of this movie.
Well, it was originally a graphic novel written and illustrated by Frank Miller.
Frank Miller and Lynn Varley.
That's his life partner, colorist. They worked together on his famous Dark Knight Returns graphic novel that brought him into the public spotlight, even though comic fans would know his work going back to his days on Daredevil. This was a graphic novel that he did. This is about the 300 Spartans versus the whatchamacallits, the Persians. The Persians,
right.
yeah, at
Led by King Xerxes.
Thermopylae, and 480 BC. So simple enough, a story, and they had to somehow stretch this into a feature-length film. The graphic novel itself, I think it might be 64 pages. So it's not a lot of substance.
That's like 2 minutes a page.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that this movie fails the Bechdel test.
Because the only women in it are either his wife, played by Cersei Lannister.
Lena Headley. That's Headley.
Yes.
Nice Blazing Saddles
Yes,
reference.
correct. Yes.
And
The woman of the night, the sex worker.
the sex workers. Right. There were a harem of sex workers that flung themselves at the hunchback when he turned sides. And they had practically no lines. Right. So this is a guy's movie. And that's putting it nicely.
In more ways than one.
Yeah.
Todd, what did you think of this film? Because we watched it for the first time last week.
Can I say real quick before you go that it has a 61% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it was made on a budget of $60 million, and to this date has grossed $456 million.
Well, we'll get to that in just a second as to why, because that was something we discussed during the watching of the film. Before you give us your opinion, let's go over the cast real quick. Gerard Butler, big breakout role for him. You already mentioned Lena Headey, David Wenham, Dominic West playing the bad guy senator with the evil goatee, and a very young-looking Michael Fassbender.
Right.
Among others. But
Also, Rodrigo Santoro played Xerxes.
oh, that's right. He really
He leaned in.
leaned in with a very effeminate portrayal of Xerxes.
Yeah.
All right, Todd, what were your thoughts?
The movie itself I found underwhelming. Visually, I don't remember if it was you or Joey who thought it looked a little dated. I thought for what it was going for, which was that comic book style, and even though I haven't read 300, I am familiar with that visual style. I thought they actually did a pretty good job of capturing that element.
Did Frank Miller also do Sin City?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I gotcha.
Yep. And so that visual style, I think based off of what they were trying to recapture from the comic books, I actually think they did a pretty good job with that. But it seems just kind of like an empty suit at the end of the day. We're supposed to care about the Spartans. It's almost like, they want us to view that as kind of like a Braveheart, Mel Gibson kind of thing. And
Friday Night Lights.
Yes.
And any given Sunday.
Any of those. Fill in the blank with your, inspirational war or sports film. But I found it very difficult to care about the Spartans and what I couldn't even articulate for you exactly what their issue with the Persians was. In fact, at the beginning of the movie, they seemed kind of like the assholes.
Yeah.
And so the rousing speeches and what we find out at the end about the narration, I just couldn't have cared less about it. I didn't find it exciting. It just seemed like a very testosterone-filled
jizz fest.
Yes.
As I've said many, many times over the years, Zack Snyder is very good at staging action, choreographing action, and when you have a really great template, which would be a graphic novel with these great stills, he's very, very adept at recreating those. Where Zack Snyder falls short for me is the human connection.
Writing.
Even if you have poor writing, a director can pull something from an actor to elicit an emotional response from the audience.
Right.
And that's something that I don't think Zack Snyder understands. And that is true of The Watchmen. That's true of the Justice League. That's true of so many of his films. You just don't care. They're just going through these action sequences and the motions to get to the end of the film.
Yep. And then, of course, the other element that was became a running joke throughout the film was the homoeroticism that I feel like, as I've thought more about it, could not have possibly been an accident. I mean, surely they thought about as they were making this film. There's only one woman in here who's other than the prostitutes that appear, one who has speaking
sex
roles,
workers.
And there are all kinds of homoerotic bro moments between the Fassbender's character and who was the other character that
I can't remember
when they're oiling each other down.
My favorite part is the post-battle scene where they're tending each other's wounds.
Yes. And
there's that one scene where the kind of guy, he arches his back and goes, "Ooh." Yeah. And he's like stroking down his back. And I'm like,
they just finished having an orgy. That's what it seemed like.
And then I think about these people that are like, all about the Spartan race and these weekend warrior guys who look to this film as kind of like, this is how bros are supposed to be, bro. And it's like, dude, you got some issues you need to map out. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but it's just, I saw this film as being an extremely homoerotic film.
Yes.
And anyone who doesn't see it, I'm like, how can you not?
Yeah.
How can you not? But to the blind, at the heart of the story is the resilience and valor of the Spartan warriors, particularly King Leonidas, who becomes a symbol of defiance and heroism much like Cinema Chop Shop.
Todd mentioned my issue I had with some of the effects. My biggest problem was the Hunchback character, and I think I mentioned this to you last weekend,
Quasimodo.
Travis.
Well, as we said, he's a combination of Quasimodo and Gollum.
Yes. But the CGI, the tracking, he has like a bulging eye on his right side,
Like they do.
and it's always in shadow, and the tracking on it's not quite right. Like he'll move his head, and the eye will kind of like float and jiggle a little bit. So
This is the exact
Yeah.
same complaint you had about the Holdovers with Paul Giamatti.
shut up! No way! No way! No complaints about the holdover.
No, you said his eye didn't match up.
No, I think that was intentional. I think they were fucking with us.
Okay.
I think that was an intentional thing, having the eye alternate.
Can I talk a little bit about the critical response to this
please.
film?
Yes.
Yeah.
The film received a standing ovation at its world premiere in front of
Lots and lots of dudes.
I have to
1,700
assume.
audience members at the Berlin International Film Festival.
I thought you were going
In
to say the Hair Club
2007.
for Men convention or something.
I'm not only the president, I'm also a member.
Yes.
It had been panned at a press screening hours earlier. So there was a difference of opinion.
Yeah, it's
Agree to disagree. Mm-hmm. Many of the attendees at the press screening left during the showing, and those who remained booed at the end. Some of the most unfavorable reviews came from major American newspapers. A.O. Scott of the New York Times described 300 as, quote, about as violent as Apocalypto and twice as stupid.
Oh my God! Wow.
While criticizing its color scheme and suggesting that its plot includes racist undertones, Scott also poked fun at the buffed bodies of the actors portraying the Spartans, declaring that the Persian characters are, quote, pioneers in the art of face piercing, but that the Spartans had to access superior health clubs and electrolytis facilities.
Well, I think we did comment that Butler's 8-pack looked like CGI in one scene.
Anatomically
in particular.
impossible.
Yes, exactly.
All right, so that's 300.
Wow.
Right?
Yes.
That's kind of interesting, though, that it's 61%, because that's more on the positive side.
Yeah, that means a lot of people are dumb.
Yeah.
Most people are dumb.
Well, it was 2007, and there were some really bad films that came out that year.
It was no 1999.
It was no 1999, which we're going to do that episode.
Hey, Cinema Chop Shop. This is Andrew up in Canada. Just wanted to say congratulations on 300 episodes. 300. Wow. This is Sparta, a great tradition in podcasting. And I'm so happy to have been able to help the show in its early years. And I've learned so much from you guys and been able to impress people with so many cool little nuggets I've learned on the show. So, yeah, thanks. And here's for 300 more.
All right, well then let's go ahead and jump into our round robin.
Round robin.
We've all selected films that have numbers figuring heavily in the titles.
Correct.
We're going to give our little synopsis or thoughts or what have you, and
Yeah.
then we're going to finish with a recast of at least the main character of each film.
I already
For
finished.
old time's sake. We should have mentioned, by the way, that Todd has a very phallic beer can for his review of 300. It's massive.
Not too girthy. Doesn't suffer from overlength.
No, it is what you would consider to be a Spartan can.
Yeah, I think the Spartan soldiers would have been very excited if this showed up
On the
at
battlefield?
on the battlefield, or at the licking of the wounds.
Oh, there you
at
go.
the end.
The licking.
Yeah.
That was actually the name of the scene in the script. All right, Todd, you're first.
Okay. The first film I did, I'm a big Alfred Hitchcock fan, and so one of the first films that popped into my head was from 1935 during his when he was still making films in Britain, which is The 39 Steps. The 39 Steps. So just to kind of run through the plot real quick, and I'll try to avoid too many spoilers, but it's one of Hitchcock's typical wrong man type of plots. He actually has a film called The Raw Man, but it's a common thread throughout Hitchcock's films where a man who is perfectly outside of the machinations that he gets involved with gets ripped into it by some accident. And so in this case, a fellow named Richard Hannay is at this event watching this guy called Mr. Memory, who has this steel trap memory, and the premise is that people shout out historical events to him, and he gives them from memory the data from it.
In 1992, the Berlin Wall fell down.
Yeah, essentially things of that nature. Of course, though, that was much later, but that's essentially what this guy does. People shout out some, what's blah, 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 and he gives them the numbers. Okay, this becomes important later on. We don't know why. But what happens at this initial event with Mr. Memory is that Hannay is there just for fun, and he gets sucked in to this these spy games, essentially, when a gun goes off. No one is shot or killed.
Is it Chekhov's gun?
No, not technically, but it does function much as Chekhov's gun functions.
Okay.
So, when the gun goes off, this woman randomly kind of attaches herself to Hannay. She seems very frightened, ostensibly because of this incident that's happened with a gun going off. He's kind to her, and she goes back with him to his flat. And so it's kind of a random thing. While they're at the flat, she explains to him why she's afraid and explains these things with the spies. We don't get a lot of details, though. For a lot of the movie, we don't really know exactly what's going on. We don't know what the 39 steps are until the very end of the film.
First one is acceptance.
Yes.
Second one is forgiveness.
Yes. And then there's a long part in the movie where he has to call up all the people who he's wronged in his life. And anyway,
Scientology?
It's Alcoholics Anonymous.
Okay. Same thing.
Yes. Anyway, so
literally the same thing.
Literally.
Yep. Anyway, he doesn't really believe her, but he kind of takes it in stride, offers her a place to stay, and then in the middle of the night, she bursts into his bedroom with a knife in her back. She's been stabbed to death. Yes.
That's the worst way to burst into somebody's bedroom.
Exactly. I know, he was probably excited at first, and then, when she fell down, knife in the back. Anyway, in her hand, she is clutching a map with this particular building circled called Halt-na-Shalott. Now he has to sneak out of the building. He knows that she was telling the truth. There are these two guys wandering around, etc. Basically, he ends up getting handcuffed to this woman. And actually, this happens very late in the film. Usually, the man and woman get teamed up together much earlier in the film. This happens like in the last 30 minutes. This woman... So I do have to explain this. There's a scene on a train where he's trying to get away from the cops. He bursts into this room to get away from them and kisses a woman to create a diversion so that they'll think that he is not the person that they're after. He tells the woman very quickly who he is, and then hoping that she'll understand and feel sorry for him. And instead of that, she says, "Hey, this is the guy you're looking for." We don't see this woman again until towards the end of the film. She points him out at this event they go to. I won't go too much into that. She points him out to the cops, who then arrest him, but they make her go with them to officially ID him. Turns out these fellows are not actual cops. They are the spies. They were, so they're whisking them away to probably get rid of them. They end up handcuffing Hannay to the woman, and then that creates sort of some comedic hijinks. She still doesn't believe him for a long time. Something happens at a hotel. She overhears the spies talking downstairs, finally believes them, etc. Okay, it's one of these spy game type things. Mr. Memory comes back at the end. I don't want to give it away as a spoiler in case people... but we find out finally at the end of the movie what the 39 steps are, which almost doesn't even matter. It's almost incidental what that whole thing was about.
It's a lot of steps.
Yes.
And why not just go for 40?
Yeah.
You're already almost there.
Right.
Can you tell us, for old time's sake, who you would recast in this movie?
Indeed. So the first thing to know about the 39 Steps is Hitchcock himself recast it 24 years later.
What?
He didn't do a straight remake, but he did a readaptation of the material as North by Northwest with
Cary
Grant and Eva Von Saint. The plot is very similar.
Watching Archie?
No, I haven't.
It's okay. It's pretty okay.
Okay. Well, first of all, the actors who played Richard Anay was a guy named Robert Donat, 30 years old.
Pronounced donut.
I actually looked it up to make sure I wasn't like it wasn't Donay or something like that. And he won the Academy Award. The other film he's famous for is Goodbye, Mr. Chips from 1939. He won the Academy Award for that. And then the actress who plays the woman he was handcuffed to, Madeline Carroll. This was pretty much the main. I mean, she did other films, but this was her big one that she's remembered for in history. For my recast, which we're doing now after 1959. I thought about this, so I felt like we needed actors.
I don't think you really thought about it.
Yeah, we need actors from the UK because I want that British accent, like from or in one case, I guess it'd be an Irish accent, but he can tweak it a bit. For Richard Hanay's character, I picked Michael Fassbender, who we mentioned earlier.
Okay.
So Fassbender is not as elegant as someone like Cary Grant can be, but he could play that to an extent, but add a rougher edge to it, which I think for a modern audience you would want. You would want the character not to be quite as like the 39 Steps. The tone of that, I don't think would quite work today. Yeah. And so you want a little bit of an edgier guy, and so I think Fassbender has the chops to play regal, but then also a little edgy. And then for the female character, Pamela was the name of the character, Margot Robbie. Robbie, I should say.
When you can say Robbie, you can say Robbie.
Robbie, yeah.
I don't think she's mad about it.
Yep. But she's about the age of the two actresses.
Margot Barbie.
Yep.
I think
she can pull off the comedy that's required of that role. She's got a cute British accent if you ever hear her talk in real life. So those are my two picks, Fassbender and Robbie.
I think recasting
25 minutes later.
I think that recasting Margot is a rite of passage for every guest on the show.
You have to.
When we do recast, because I'm
She's
pretty
my girl.
sure she has shown up with every guest that's ever done.
Oh,
a recast.
absolutely.
Yeah, everyone wants to.
I mean, I tried to be a little more creative, but
I'm not. It's not a knock. It's just one of those things. Everyone grabs it because she's good.
Yeah.
Travis.
Yes, sir.
What's your movie?
My first one is a little movie. Well, I just want to ask you, what's in the box?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
It's a movie called Seven, stylized as SE7EN, because it was really cool in the 90s to include numbers in everything.
When did this come out?
We're talking 1995.
All right.
Directed by David Fincher.
Yes.
It's got an 83% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Too low.
It's based on a
agree.
1988 comic book of the same name. Nope, that's a different thing. That was 300. But it did have a budget of 34 million and gross 327 million. It's a psychological thriller. It stars Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman and the
President of the United States of America.
Donald Trump?
No.
Gwyneth Paltrow?
No.
And then Kevin Spacey,
about Kevin
as
Spacey?
well. Well, Kevin Spacey is eventually we find out he's the big bad. But it's a thriller that is about two detectives. One is younger, one is older. And they are trying to solve this serial killer murder where the killer is essentially reenacting the 7 deadly sins. The film unfolds as a cat and mouse game between the detectives and the cunning serial killer, who seems to be taunting them with cryptic clues. The relationship between the seasoned, weary detective Somerset and the ambitious, hot-headed Detective Mills is tested as they overcome the grim realities of the case. Now, I don't know about you guys, but when I saw this, it broke my brain. Like, the victims of these sins,
Yep.
it was crazy.
Yeah. Very
Right?
gruesome. Especially which sin was it? The guy who essentially had been starved for a year. Do you remember? Was that
gluttony?
No, that's the opposite. Gluttony was the guy that was just so fat he was like
Okay,
stuck
yeah,
on his
yeah.
table.
I'm trying to remember why did it, what that one was.
He was like into the mattress.
Yeah, he was barely alive.
Yeah.
So we were talking about this a few weeks ago when we were prepping for this episode. The DVD for this was exceptional because Fincher and Pitt were doing the commentary, and they were talking about how the guy that was cast in that role, when he originally auditioned, he was like 97 pounds. When he showed up for the day of the shoot, he was 83, like some ridiculous number. And it was like, we feel uncomfortable shooting, and the guy's like, no dude, I'm fine, I'm fine.
good.
It's cool, yeah, I'm good.
I prepped.
But every single one of those kills had an incredible amount of detail, and the production quality behind it is incredible. Just stuff that we, the viewer, don't even see that was added to just create this world, and it's fantastic. And also, one of the things that always intrigued me the most about this movie was the fact that Kevin Spacey insisted when he was cast, because this comes on the heels of The Usual Suspects, he insisted that I don't want to be known. I want no part of the publicity. Don't list me in
But it's kind of a similar role.
It is a very similar role.
Where he's revealed at the end to be...
Well, it was very...
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, well, it was very important.
Big bad, the villain.
Yeah, so it's very important that we not know that Kevin Spacey was in this movie, because the timing, eventually you're going to be like, well, Kevin Spacey's in this, and obviously we know that he's the killer.
How many times do you think you've seen this movie? About 7.
I was going to say 8 or 9, but 7's a good number.
All right, so a little bit of critical response.
Hit it.
Critics such as Roger Ebert and Desson Howe describe Seven as an intelligent, well-made film that could comfortably stand alongside other thrillers. Others compared Seven unfavorably with The Silence of the Lambs and The Usual Suspects, saying Seven lacks the other film's intelligent narrative and takes itself too seriously as an examination of evil instead of a, quote, silly piece of pulp. The Orlando Sentinel said, however, Seven offers a, quote, terrific film noir atmosphere and excellent performances, with the Seattle Times saying the film would be unendurable without Freeman and Spacey.
Really? See, I enjoyed the film. I love the pulp and the noir quality about it.
Exactly, yeah.
And
can we tell them what's in the box? It's Gwyneth Paltrow's head.
Yeah.
But it has a candle in there with the aroma of her own vagina.
There you go. Yes.
It's not Justin Timberlake's dick, though.
So tell us,
Dick in a
Travis,
box.
what's your recast?
All right, so I had a couple of options. I was thinking, like pretty boy, rugged, blonde. I went with Garrett Hedlund, who's around the same age. Then Michelle, my lovely wife Michelle, she was like, who's Ken in Barbie?
Ryan Gosling.
And I was like, nah, too mainstream. And so then I was like, all right, I got it. He's rugged. He's obscure. He's been in some things lately, and his star is rising. Sturgill Simpson.
Yeah.
Sturgill Simpson is my Brad Pitt in Seven. So Brad Pitt was 32 at the time, and Sturgill Simpson is 45.
Very nice. Thank you for that. I'm going to talk about a 1999 film called 8mm.
Okay. With Nico Cage.
This was directed by Joel Schumacher, and I'm going to be ripping on Joel Schumacher for a little bit, so please stand. I don't hate Joel Schumacher. Falling Down is one of my favorite movies.
I just hate people whose family lineage is derived from people who make shoes.
Oh, shots fired at our former co-host. Anyway, this film stars Nicolas Cage, a very young Joaquin Phoenix, James Gandolfini, Catherine Keener, and an even younger Norman Reedus.
Norman Reedus?
Okay.
Norman Reedus
From The Walking Dead.
from The Walking
He's
Dead.
Daryl.
He plays the boyfriend that ended up getting put in jail. The boyfriend of the girl that was abducted or whatever, or killed or what have you.
Well, this is an era where he was in a handful of movies like The Faculty and
He was in
Reedus?
The
others.
Faculty?
What's funny about Reedus is that he has the exact same haircut in this film that he does in The Walking Dead.
I think he's always had the same
It's just
haircut.
it's the same hair, but his face is younger. It's
Yeah.
really unnerving. So you have a private detective who's hired by a wealthy widow to determine the authenticity of a snuff film found in her husband's safe. That's the premise. Apparently, he's a really good private detective. He comes with impeccable references. He is total discretion. That was very important. Credit to Nicolas Cage. Low key, low tone, private investigator. He almost cages out a couple of times in the film, but even then he kind of dials it in a little. So high marks for that. The music was by an artist named Michael Dana. Michael Dana has a long history of film soundtracks. He's won multiple awards. Another that he's really known for is another number film, Pi.
By 3.14157.
That was actually going to be Joey Poole's selection.
I was aware of Michael Dana back in my college days when I was a nerd who listened to music from the hearts of space.
So back when you were a nerd?
Yes. Always a nerd, though. Music from the hearts of space. Public radio is like ambient, new wave, new age, like kind of like sleep music. And Michael Dana started his career making this music, so he pivoted from that into the much more lucrative soundtrack stuff. The soundtrack has like this Middle Eastern flavor. It's like Middle Eastern street bazaar kind of music, which plays into this crazy world that Nicolas Cage is entering into of investigating pornography, snuff films, trying to get to the heart of whether or not this snuff film is real. And that, to me, is the standout in this movie. The music drives this thing. However, this is an R-rated film, and most directors, I think, would have the wisdom to say, I can't depict deep, hardcore kink porn on camera.
And murder.
I can't depict all of that and still keep it R-rated. Instead, I should leave some of that to the imagination of the viewer. However, Joel Schumacher turns the camera to the film and shows some of the goofiest fucking depictions of simulated pornography for an R-rated audience, and it just makes the film laughable from the word go.
I heard it was unsimulated.
James Gandolfini is playing James Gandolfini in this movie. He is a porn producer. Nicolas Cage locates him and in Los Angeles, and then kind of with the help of Joaquin Phoenix, who happens to be a clerk in a porn store, who knows porn.
Yeah.
He knows the underworld of porn, helps him locate this pornographer in New York that's connected to the LA pornographer, and they somehow connect the dots and figure out that these people did make the snuff film. They did kill the girl. Sorry, spoiler alerts for a terrible movie. In the end, Joaquin Phoenix dies, James Gandolfini dies, the pornographer dies. The only one left is the Dom and the film with the leather mask and whatnot. He's actually played by the guy who played the sheriff in True Blood.
Yeah.
Yeah, not good. They have like a little battle, and ultimately Nick Cage wins, and he goes home to his wife, Catherine Keener, which, I'm sorry, Catherine Keener, that you had to be in this movie. It's terrible. Oh, and this is another thing. Joel Schumacher. If you're going to depict a sadistic pornographer / killer, which was the end game and the thing, he had Danzig posters all over his wall.
However, there were bat nipples on Glenn Danzig.
I'm sorry, but if Glenn Danzig is your, like, peak of evil, you're a joke.
Yeah.
So I just had to laugh. My recast. I'm going to recast Christian Bale in the Nicolas Cage role.
All right.
Okay.
Well, you know, Schumacher did the Batman films.
Yeah.
Christian Bale was a Batman.
Yeah.
So he's going to be my Batman. It's going to be a better production.
Yeah.
with
I think
better
it's
direction.
cool. I think it's pretty cool.
All right, it's time we take a break. I think that we need to go pee in the yard.
I want to pee in the yard.
Me too. Let's do it together. But before we say,
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby.
And get ourselves a $100,000 bar.
nice numbers.
Ahoy, Chop Shoppers. This is Chief Corrections Officer Dana. 300 episodes? This is madness! I was happy to be your long-distance pedant for a few years and do lots of Googling and watching of YouTube videos to sort out your stumblings. Donald Gleason made it easy on me by making a video pronouncer. But who could forget the star of Lady Bird and Atonement, Saoirse Ronan? I sure can't. Anyway, I raise a glass to all of you in celebration of your 300th. Here's to many more cinematic discussions, pick-aparts, and dips in the pool. Tonight, we chop in hell!
And we're back.
Guess who's back?
We all did a little pee in the yard.
Literally, we all peed in the yard.
At the same time, different corners.
We didn't cross the streams.
Not at all. Travis, what do we like to do when we come back from intermission?
It's a little bit of a thing called a beer check-in.
We have sirens outside.
They're mad.
They're coming for us. Beer check-ins. I decided to get us something special. A little special for the special occasion. This is Big Bad Baptist.
Uh-oh.
Chocolate caramel sea salt imperial stout aged in whiskey barrels with cacao, sea salt, and natural flavors added from Epic Brewing.
I want this in my life.
Yeah,
I've never
sounds
had a bad Big Bad Baptist, ever. And
Okay.
usually their special treatments are exceptional. So
And while he's pouring us those, mine was not a popular choice this week. The Voodoo Ranger Fruit Force, which is a fruit punch IPA. Sean made a face when he took his initial sip.
I believe
He
you call
does
it
that sometimes.
a twisted
Yeah.
face.
I thought it got a little bit better as you went on and got kind of used to it, but it's definitely not. It's definitely not great.
Addiction. Gather round, children. Zip it. Listen.
Oh my goodness,
That's a dessert right there.
there it is.
Yeah, it tastes like a chocolate pie.
And sometimes those imperial stouts that have the whiskey barrel element are the aftertaste I find a little unpleasing, and this one
You won't find it here.
Nope.
It's really nice. Yeah, as I said, I've never been disappointed by any of their variations. So, hooray! Happy 300.
If you could be any bag of chips, what bag of chip would you be?
I think I go with Cheetos.
You're going to be a Cheeto?
Yeah,
Are you talking about the puffy ones or the thin ones?
I'm a crunchy guy.
Crunchy,
Yeah.
okay.
But for two reasons. One, I just love how the crunchy ones taste, and then also Chester Cheetah is pretty cool, man. So
I'd be a Funyun.
Funyun. You'd be a Funyun. I'm going with the Doritos that have the like lime slash
The chile lime.
yes, the chili lime Doritos.
those are actually pretty good. Yeah.
I say Funyun because while I'm delicious, I will cut you.
Just don't confuse your Funyuns with fake calamari.
Okay, all right. Let's dive back into our round robin, shall we?
Yes, we shall.
I think we've all got one more, and then we'll maybe fill in some time with some other shit. Todd, go ahead. Give us what you're thinking for the next.
Okay, this is one of my all-time favorite films, 12 Angry Men, and it's directed by Sidney Lumet, who ended up being one of the great directors of the new Hollywood era. This was actually his first film, and then he later directed films like Serpico, Dog Day Afternoon, Network, so, you know, one of the great directors of that period.
Haven't heard of any of those.
Question.
Yes.
So, this was his first film.
Yep, this was his first feature-length film. It was based off of a play by this guy named Reginald Rose, and if you've seen the film, you can see totally how it would have been a play. Reginald Rose adapted his play for the screen. Yes.
Was this the first version of 12 Angry Men?
No, it was Reginald Rose originally wrote it as I think a teleplay, and in fact the Criterion Collection version, which I have, has that very grainy looking version. I think it was Playhouse 90 was a famous. Don't quote me on that, but it was one of those shows like Playhouse 90 that came on the early 50s of early television. Okay. Rod Serling was a part of that. Requiem for a Heavyweight was another one that's a famous one of that era. But anyway, so Reginald Rose, he originally wrote it as a teleplay, and then he reconstructed it for this film. And then Sidney Lumet directed it. Again, his very first film, 1957, is when this came out. So the premise, and I won't have to belabor it quite as much as the 39 Steps, which was extremely convoluted. 12 Angry Men, pretty simple premise. You have a minority who has been accused of murdering an elderly person in their apartment. He is on trial. He is facing the death penalty. And then you have 12 all-male, a 12-person all-male jury, with one person who is a foreigner, I guess you'd say, but a
Somebody
citizen
who's not an old white man.
Exactly. They have one. He's essentially, though, a white European, but he's earned his citizenship, which becomes kind of a thing in one scene. But anyway, so the premise is pretty simple. There's this murder that's happened. They've had the trial. We don't see the trial. What we see is them entering into the deliberation chamber to discuss what happened and how they're going to vote. The way the film begins is they do the initial vote. It's 11-1. So the one guy who does not vote for it is juror number 8, who is played by Henry Fonda.
Henry Fonda!
Yes.
One of the great Fondas.
Exactly.
I'm very fond of him.
Yep. Henry Fonda, father of Jane, one of the great actors of the classic,
He was in that
Hollywood
movie,
cinema.
Barbara Fella.
And yes, Barbara Fella.
On Golden Fonda.
Okay. In any case, he was about 55 when this movie was made, so this was kind of later in his career. But he was definitely, essentially, the leading role in this. And in fact, he had a big role in this getting made. He really liked the teleplay that Reginald Rose had written, and it was a major factor in it getting made. Okay, so none of the characters, we don't know any of their names. They're all juror 1, 2, 3 through 12. And he's juror number 8. And so they deliberate for a while. Initially, everyone's annoyed with Henry Fonda because he's the one guy holding out. Gradually, he starts to persuade other people, and then throughout the movie, it ticks off. And eventually, by the end of the movie, the young man is acquitted. Okay, so that's essentially the bare bones of the plot. I did recast 3 of the jurors here. I actually thought about kind of running through this and doing all 12 jurors, but I decided to pick the 3, what I would consider to be the main ones. Travis, you have a question.
I have a question. Have you ever been on jury duty?
I was, the initial couple times I was called in, I was in college, so I was able to get out of it. I did have to show up.
You were in college, so that gets you out of jury duty?
Yeah.
I'm in college.
You're a pinko hippie.
I guess if you're away at college. So this was when I was still like my permanent residence was with my parents, and then I get the summons, and since I'm at college, I don't have to do it.
Do you want to know a surefire way to get out of jury duty every single time?
Fuck the police.
Yeah.
You don't say that. Don't say that. Tell them that you simultaneously donate to the NRA and the NAACP. You will never be on a jury.
I've been called on to jury duty since I moved to Florence 12 years ago. I've been summoned for jury.
Yep.
6 times.
That's so weird how it works. And also when you actually show up, because there was one time about 10 years ago where I did have to show up when I lived here, and I never got called up as one of the people, but it was so weird because there was one person who got put on 4 different juries, and some of people like me never got called up, and I'm like, once you get put on a jury, why don't they take you out of the pool?
Well, if
like
you're
that
like
doesn't
real
seem fair. That
banana
doesn't seem fair to like someone get put on 4 jury.
If you're like me, you kind of become a celebrity juror.
Yeah.
They kind of want you.
Yeah.
And you kind of have like a certain a name for yourself.
Oh, you got Sean?
Yeah.
You got Sean on your jury?
Totally. Yeah,
I just thought that was weird. Like it seems like they would dismiss you once you got put on one jury, but no, some people got on 4 of them, and
I've gotten out of
never
jury duty every single time.
I just sat there and they never called my name, and then after 4 hours or whatever, I went back to work.
Knock
so
on
anyway,
wood.
okay. So back to 12 Angry Men, where we don't see the process of how they were picked. But it should be noted, this is 1957. The movie's called 12 Angry Men, and you probably could not do this movie today unless you made it a period piece. If you made it a contemporary movie,
you'd have to have a diversified
exactly.
jury. Yeah,
and that's which is how,
or you make it a reflection of the current state of division in this country.
which I'm gonna get to. So when I did my recasting of, like I said, I picked the 3 jurors who essentially what I would consider to be the main ones. So juror number 8, of course, is Henry Fonda. At the time, 54 years old. He's kind of an everyman sort of guy, but the problem with recasting him if we did it today would be the white savior type thing. So you couldn't, I don't think, have a white, especially not an older white guy, be that character. So I thought of who would be.
What about Tommy Lee Jones?
Yeah, exactly. So I thought of who would be like a minority actor who has Henry Fonda sort of juice. Denzel Washington. That was who I thought of in the Henry Fonda role. Mm-hmm. He would have the same. He can pull off the same kind of demeanor, but he would also give a little bit more edge to it, which you would expect for this type of role in this contemporary setting. And so that the fact that he would have the similar juice of Fonda in the same age range. He's actually quite a little bit older than Fonda was at the time. But I mean, he's Denzel 68. But
I don't think that in this scenario.
Yeah, I don't think that matters. Yeah, I don't think that necessarily.
So
matters.
who's your
anyway, Denzel's the Fonda character,
right,
who's essentially, even though he's not the jury foreman, he's the leader, kind of convincing people.
Right.
All right. Another juror number 3, played by Lee J. Cobb,
yep,
who is a wonderful actor. Other than this role, probably his most famous role was as the cinema-loving detective in The Exorcist.
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah. So if you know Lee J. Cobb, he's very bombastic, kind of loud, but very good.
Acerbic.
Yes. This character, juror number 3, is one of the last holdouts, which is why this character is important, and he's kind of a bigot, as we find out.
Kind of.
He's definitely a bigot. He positions himself, he tries to position himself, though, as a neutral arbiter. He has a notebook at the beginning, he's going through it. So he's trying to position himself. So it is a very Trumpian era type thing that I think would work in a remake.
His favorite comedy is The Toy.
Yeah. So I was... But I was trying...
Toys.
But in thinking of contemporary actors who could... pull off that kind of loud bombast, Paul Giamatti. That's who I thought of as in the Lee J. Cobb role.
Very interesting.
Quite a turn from the holdovers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Which I haven't seen yet, and I'm looking forward to. But
you are missing out, sir, because it is amazing.
Yeah, I love that director too. But anyway, so Giamatti, though, as we know, is a great character actor. He can play a variety of different roles, and he can play a nasty character.
Sure.
As we saw in 12 Years a Slave, he had the small role as the slave trader.
Another number movie.
Yep.
12 years in Tibet.
Yeah.
Another one.
And also that kind of loud, sonorous thing that Lee J. Cobb does, if you know how he acts, when he really gets into it, a role. Giamatti was the guy that I thought of. So Giamatti for juror number 3, who's the last holdout and has to give up in order for the kid to be acquitted.
One more.
And then one more. Martin Balsam as the jury foreman, juror number 1. Martin Balsam most famously played Milton Arbogast, the detective in Psycho, who goes down the steps when he gets murdered, the private detective, yes. he's important because he's, the foreman, and he's a high school teacher, so he has this kind of neutral sort of attitude, but occasionally, though, kind of has these little bursts. So for his character, I thought of Toni Collette.
Really?
Because I thought, again, we needed a more diverse cast.
Yes.
So we need a woman in there.
I'm on board 100% now. You got Toni Collette in.
Exactly. And Toni Collette, of course, is a wonderful character actor. And to me, she could pull off that role of someone who is trying to be like a reasonable neutral arbiter, as this Martin Balsam character does in that role. He tries to seem like he's not taking, even as he votes, he tries to seem like he's giving everyone a fair shake. I think she could pull that off, but also the little quirky touches that Balsam gives to the role,
Can
do
she
as
have
well.
dissociative personality disorder too?
Yes.
Also, second question.
United States
Do you
of
think
Terror.
that Martin Balsam is upset that his wood is so light?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Todd, thank you.
Yes.
Fantastic work, sir. Good job. Great
Over
film.
to Sean. with
Over
his
to
final-
you. This is you, bitch.
All right.
Don't you try to hijack this show. What is your film, Travis? You have
my
3
final-
minutes. You have
My
3
final
minutes.
film is
I
a
soaked up all the time,
documentary.
sorry.
A documentary called Room 237. It's from 2012.
I've never
And
seen it.
Oh, it's amazing.
never
It's
seen
great.
this?
Nope, never seen
It's
it.
really good. So
I know what it is. Go ahead. Tell the audience.
I'm going to tell the audience that it is a documentary film that breaks down a lot of details within the Stanley Kubrick film The Shining and how they might be clues to different conspiracies.
Didn't I talk about this one on an episode?
No, but we talked about Clue during the blackmail episode.
Okay.
You said clues.
No, on the conspiracy theory episode. Yeah, this was one of mine. Yeah. Anyway,
Go ahead.
Sorry.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
It's if you like film and you like conspiracies and you like plausible conjecture, then check this out. They talk about the moon landing.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about JFK. They talk about every single conspiracy theory, and it's
And supposedly Stanley Kubrick with the moon landing theory helped fake it, right?
Right.
The famous
that's part
moon
of
landing
it.
footage.
and so mostly I chose this movie because I like it and it has a number in the title.
Those are the
But-
criteria for the film, for the episode. Yeah.
But I did recast Stanley Kubrick.
Okay. Who is your recast for Stanley Kubrick?
My recast
Kubrick.
for Stanley Kubrick, and we're talking about a 1984
Yeah.
Stanley Kubrick.
He's doing cocaine with Stephen King.
It's Paul Giamatti.
What?
Wow.
Paul
Okay.
Giamatti.
Oh my
Yes.
god!
The fact that two of us put him on there just goes
Yes.
to show the versatility.
It's the Giamatti song.
Actually, then that's a pretty good pick too.
Think about it.
Yeah.
Think
right.
about him playing Stanley Kubrick.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm gonna
think
bring
you can do it.
the episode to a fizzle,
Grinding halt.
a grinding halt, and a fizzle with a really bad movie. This one is from 2007, same year as 300. Mm-hmm. Directed by Joel Schumacher. Again, it's the number 23
Oh, with Jim Carrey?
with Jim Carrey, Virginia Madsen, Logan Lerman, a very young Logan Lerman, and Danny Houston, who you would know from American Horror Story. He was the saxophone player in like one of the early seasons.
He's the heir apparent to the Houston fortune.
Right. This is the story about Walter Sparrow. He becomes obsessed with a book that his wife bought for him and begins to believe it was written about him. He,
The old narcissist complex.
yes. Like the previous movie I talked about, 8mm, another obsession with private detectives and seedy hotels. Schumacher kind of has a thing for those two. The huge pill to swallow, spoiler alerts if you want to watch this movie, don't listen to this. The huge pill to swallow is that They expect us to believe that Jim Carrey was the writer of the book all along. It's a convoluted, messy story about a man who wrote a book, went insane. Someone else published it while he was institutionalized. He gets out of the asylum. He bumps into his future wife. She buys the book. He starts reading it, and he becomes obsessed with the number 23 and takes his son along for the ride.
Like you do.
That's the movie.
I don't even think I've heard of this one, to be honest. I thought
You never heard of the number 23?
I've heard of the number 23,
It's-
but I don't know that I've heard of the
It's
movie.
terrible. It is
Okay.
terrible.
It was panned at the time.
It has a-
I think that it might need a rewatching.
Rewatch
Okay.
it. It has a 4% on Rotten Tomatoes, and I think it is deserved.
Okay. Maybe that's why I've never heard of it. It just slipped my notice and then went into obscurity where it belongs.
Like 8mm, we get to see Joel Schumacher's interpretation of film noir, as well as the private detective process.
Both of your movies are Joel Schumacher?
Yes.
Holy shit, dude.
By happenstance, I picked both
Broke
of
my brain.
I picked both of these movies and then realized that he was connected to the two.
Okay.
Just terrible, because you have to endure this film and see it through the narrator's eyes, like as he's reading a book about a detective and the femme fatale. So you see this really shitty, cliched portrayal of a private detective and in a film noir kind of setting. It's just not good. And then of course then you go through this whole journey, the whole film, hour and 40 minutes, and then you're expected to just say, oh, well, that makes sense. He wrote the book originally, and now that's why he thought it was about him in the first place. Just a dud. Just a goddamn dud.
Okay.
So, in the role of Jim Carrey, I'm recasting Paul Dano.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Both played the Riddler.
Oh, okay. Well, and Paul Dano definitely has the chops to do pretty much whatever he wants.
Paul Dano can do no wrong. And
He's an amazing actor.
Todd,
Dano Nation is a hashtag, by the way, on like Twitter or X or whatever
Really?
it's called now. Yeah, that's
Todd
a thing.
gets extra points for saying chops a lot. Thank you. The algorithm will love it.
True.
All right, so that's it. That's my fucking film. We've got some extra time left. Do you want to do the challenge?
What is the challenge?
Let's start naming off the number movies until we run out.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say the Ice Bucket
12
Challenge.
Monkeys.
12 Monkeys. I will see your 12 Monkeys and raise it year one.
9.5 weeks.
The number 9.
9 to 5.
101 Dalmatians.
127 hours.
I think that was Joey Poole's other one, by the way.
Lock, Stock, and 3 Smoking Barrels.
It's 2.
2, whatever.
61.
54.
The movie 43?
Oh, you motherfucker. How dare you invoke that?
I know, right?
200 cigarettes. Is that the right number for that movie?
300 cigarettes.
Was it 300? Okay.
Yeah. I'll go. Hold on. 9 months.
Is it 9 months?
Yeah. It's the
Yeah.
Arnold Schwarzenegger
yeah.
is pregnant.
9.5 weeks. Did you already say that one?
9.5 weeks. Yeah, I did that one.
8.5. Fellini.
Oh, yeah. 99 Problems and a Bitch Ain't One. Oh, sorry. That's wrong genre. Let's see. Oh, God. Damn it. What's the date of JFK's assassination where they did the date of that with
63?
They did the date with what's his name? James Franco did the movie. But there's a film based off of it, right? Hold on,
Can't
sorry.
look it up.
Oh, what's the other Franco
James
movie? 127 hours?
Yeah, he did
Just
that one.
did
Yeah,
that.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Franco.
I'm not listening to you.
JFK movie. Hold on, I'll tell you in just a second.
No, you're cheating.
12, 11, 22, 63.
The
I just
game's
couldn't
over.
remember the date.
No, the game's over.
No.
I had
You
another
cheated.
one.
Go ahead.
I didn't cheat. It was a
You're
date.
out. I think that the point's been made that there are a lot of films with numbers in the title.
Also, like the 90s where every band had to have a number in the title.
Yes. Nobody said 21 Jump Street.
Good one. And then there was also 22 Jump Street, the sequel.
21 Jump Street is a movie, but it's based on a TV
TV
show.
show. Yeah. Well, It's been a lot of fun doing 300 episodes. Well, I've been a part of all of them. I've been a part of a lot of them.
I'm part of a tiny fraction here towards the end, but I'm happy to be contributing now.
Well, let's say we do a few more
Let's do it.
You want to do a few more?
episodes.
Oh, I thought you meant movie numbers.
No, we're going to do some more episodes. We're going to keep this bitch going.
All right.
I think 365 should be like an episode too, because that means you have one episode for every day of the year. Someone could theoretically have a
Or
whole year
360.
of cinema chop shop.
365, we'll turn the clock back and we'll redo the first episode.
Yeah.
Sci-fi movies.
Sci-fi, that's such a broad genre.
Oh, 2001. God.
Yeah.
Why didn't any of us think of that?
2010, yeah. All that shit. We've got some cool episodes coming up on the horizon. I think we've alluded to the 1999 movies episode. I think, Travis, you brought up the Batman Challenge.
Batman Challenge.
All the Batman films.
All the
ranked.
Batman movies ranked.
Which
Wow.
means that Joey's got a lot of catching up to do.
Joey Poole, y'all, has not seen The Dark Knight, which I think
not
is,
seen any
well,
Batman
for a
movies.
cinephile, I think that might be one of the worst holes I've heard.
Speaking
many
of
holes,
that,
but-
we are going to do the You Haven't Seen That
Yes.
episode, where we're all going to contribute a list of films we've not seen that we probably should have.
I won't be there because I've seen every movie.
And we're going to let the panel vote on what movie you need to watch
All right.
and report your findings. So, yeah, we've got some cool shit. We're not slowing down. We're not quitting. We're going to keep going with the Cinema Chop Shop Army. So, if you haven't already, please follow us on all the social medias. We're Cinema Chop Shop everywhere except for YouTube, where we are Cinema Chop Shop Podcast. And you can watch an audio presentation of this very episode. And tell your friends to rate, review, subscribe, and join us or something.
Do you have any plugs?
I don't. It's too new in the year. At the
I want
beginning
to
of
plug the
2024.
band Creed and also people who eat Spam salad.
Okay.
And please
Remember to
watch,
shop,
retrofit.